Can you imagine a locomotive so powerful that the rails start singing before you even see it? You're standing by a quiet line in the open country. The wind is still. The sun is low. Then the steel begins to hum. Not a sound from the sky. Not a truck on the road. Just a vibration growing under your feet. A shadow swells on the horizon, and for a moment you wonder if you're about to meet a machine that shouldn't exist. Today, you and I are going hunting for those machines, the giants of railroading. Engines that pushed physics, track, and human courage to the edge. Some were perfect. Some were disasters. All of them were unforgettable. And yes, the last one on this list will make your jaw drop. We begin in Hungary, 1936. Picture a country determined to prove it could build fast, modern trains without brute force. The result was the MÁV 242. Not a huge tender engine, but a sleek 444 tank locomotive with a streamlined shell. Only 4 were built, which already makes your curiosity tick. Why so few? Because this wasn't a typical do-everything steamer. It was a specialist, quick, nimble, and beautiful. In service, the 242 could run 120 km/h both directions, no turning needed. In tests, it touched 152 km/h. Years later, one set a Hungarian steam speed record at 161 km/h. That's astonishing for a compact tank engine. The shape wasn't only for looks. The smooth casing cut the air and quieted the ride. You got speed, calm, and confidence at once. Today, 242-1 still survives in Budapest, an elegant time capsule that proves you don't have to be the biggest to feel like the future. But now let's swing the pendulum the other way, from fast elegance to survival engineering. You're in South Africa in the 1950s, facing long dry stretches where water is scarce and heat is merciless. Most steam locomotives hated this. The South African Railways Class 25 did not. This big 484 was built with a condensing tender, basically a rolling water recycler. Instead of blowing steam into the air, it cooled it back into water and used it again. That single idea turned "we can't" into "we can go farther than anyone else." The range jumped. The routes opened. Freight moved where it couldn't before. The Class 25 wasn't about speed. It was about staying alive in places that broke lesser engines. When the program changed, many were converted into non-condensing Class 25NC locomotives. But the legend of the condenser survived because it solved a real problem with real results. Go farther with less water in places that had almost none. Ready to trade deserts for drama? Come to Virginia around 1950 and meet a locomotive that blended speed and stage presence like a headliner. Norfolk and Western 611, the Queen of Steam. It's a 484 built by N&W's own Roanoke shops. The casing is smooth and dark. The nose is bullet-shaped, and the whole machine looks like it's already moving when it's standing still. Technically, it's impressive. 300 psi boiler pressure, big 70-inch drivers, and 2 large cylinders that could pull hard and run fast. In its prime, 611 hustled long passenger trains at serious speed with remarkable smoothness. Then, decades later, the story got even better. 611 came back to life. It runs in excursion service, a living museum piece that still fills stations with people. In 2024, it was even added to the U.S. National Register of Historic Places. Picture it charging past, whistles singing, black paint gleaming. You don't just watch it, you feel it. But if 611 is a ballet dancer with steel muscles, the next engine is a heavyweight boxer with no patience for small talk. Meet the Santa Fe 5000, the Madame Queen built in 1930. It's a 2-10-4 Texas type, and it looks every bit the part, long, low, and all business. This was the prototype for a whole generation of Santa Fe freight haulers, and it excelled in the tough country of the American Southwest. It was converted from coal to oil in 1940, which made it more flexible for the regions it served. Did it wear streamlining? No. Did it need to? Absolutely not. The 5000 was a working legend, helping define what big freight power looked like before diesel took over. Today it rests in Amarillo, Texas, preserved as a civic icon. One engine, one name, one reputation carved into the rails. So far we've seen fast, we've seen tough, and we've seen graceful. But now we're going to meet a locomotive that feels like it fell out of a giant's toolbox. It came from the Soviet Union in the 1930s, and it broke a rule almost nobody dared to break. It had 7 coupled driving axles in one rigid frame. That means 14 driving wheels, all fixed. Its name was A20. On paper, it promised huge pulling power. In practice, it was too much for most track geometry. Curves, yikes. Clearances, tight. Maintenance, hard. Engineers tried to cheat the curves with tricks: flangeless wheels in the middle, special force transmission, extra lateral play. But the truth stayed the truth. This was a locomotive whose size crossed the line from bold to burdensome. Only one was completed. It ran, it scared people, it struggled, and then it was scrapped. Still, you can't help but admire the audacity. Someone actually built this 414-4 steel centipede and tried to make it work. That alone gives it a place in legend. Think about that arc for a second. We started with a small windswept speedster from Hungary. We crossed deserts with a water-saving monster. We rode a queen of streamlining. We muscled freight through the Southwest. Then we looked a Soviet experiment in the eye and said, wow. And also, maybe don't. You can feel the theme. People kept pushing the railways, not just to go, but to go farther, faster, heavier. And we're only getting warmed up. Because the next machine doesn't haul trains. It chews through winter itself. Keep watching. What's coming can blast a 10-foot wall of snow into powder like it's nothing. Sources for Part 1. MAV, 242 speed and preservation. South African Class 25 condenser history. N&W 6-11 specs and 2024 NRHP. Santa Fe 5000 preservation and service. Soviet AA20 design and issues winter. The kind that swallows roads, closes schools, and buries fences. The railroad doesn't get a snow day. So what do you do when the drifts are taller than a house and the line must open today? You bring out the rotary. A rotary snowplow doesn't pull the train. Another engine shoves it. The star is the spinning front wheel, an armored fan with biting blades that cut, grind, and throw snow far from the track. The sound is wild. Diesel engine roaring, blades screaming, snow exploding sideways like a storm in reverse. These machines kept mountain railroads alive when weather tried to shut the world down. They were used from the early days of steam power through diesel conversions, and some still stand by for emergencies. In a bad winter, a rotary can mean the difference between a frozen railroad and a breathing one. Now we're going back to speed and muscle, with a twist. In 1943, Union Pacific took delivery of a locomotive that would sit forever in people's memories. Challenger number 3985. If you've never seen a Challenger, imagine a steam engine so long it bends in the middle. That's an articulated design, 4664. Two sets of big drivers under one boiler, with the front set able to pivot a little to follow curves. The payoff? You get the power of a huge engine without being stuck on straight track. Number 3985 hauled freight in the mountains, retired, and then came roaring back in the 1980s as an excursion star, the largest operating steam locomotive in the world at that time. People traveled hours just to feel it thunder by. Today, 3985 isn't running. But here's the good news. It's being restored in Sylvies, Illinois by a preservation group determined to bring it back to life. Updates keep rolling in, and the work is active. You can't help but root for it. That's the funny thing about these machines. They don't just move trains, they move us. Think that was big? Let's talk about a mountain of moving steel that made crews whisper the word power. The Chesapeake and Ohio H8, Allegheny, a 266-6. Two leading wheels, two sets of 6 drivers, and 6 trailing wheels to carry the monster firebox. Built in the early 1940s, these engines hauled heavy coal over the tough grades feeding the steel mills. Estimates of horsepower vary with conditions, but the figure you hear again and again is right around 7,500 at speed, enough to pull trains that felt impossible just years earlier. The sheer weight was staggering. Whole divisions scheduled track checks after runs. Only 2 survive today, one at the Henry Ford Museum and one at the B&O Railroad Museum. Stand next to one and it fills your vision. It's not only the size, it's knowing that this thing once ran hard day and night, doing the gritty work that built cities. Now switch fuels. Diesel-electric changed railroading because it was lighter on crews, easier to maintain, and ready to start at the turn of a key. But easier didn't mean smaller. In 1969, Union Pacific and EMD unveiled a diesel that basically put 2 locomotives on one frame, the DDA40X Centennial. Under the hood sat not one but 2 V16 engines driving electricity to the axles. Total power, about 6,600 horsepower. Top speeds? Up to 80-90 mph on priority freights. The frames were so long that a special fabricator built them. The nickname Centennial came from the 100th anniversary of the Golden Spike. Some railroads later decided it's better to run multiple smaller units rather than one giant, but the DDA40X remains the king of single-frame diesel power. If you ever see number 6936, the survivor in Union Pacific's heritage fleet, just remember, you're looking at a diesel that rewrote the rules on how much is too much. So what's bigger than big? What's the summit of steam? You already know the name, the Union Pacific Big Boy. In the early 1940s, UP needed one locomotive to do the job of several over the Wasatch, dragging freight up and over mountain passes without helpers. The answer was a 4884 that weighed more than 1 million pounds with its tender stretched over 132 feet and could run up to 80 mph pace on the level. The numbers are huge, but the feeling is bigger. Imagine standing on a windy hill while a black wall of steel comes at you. Not a blur, but a force. In 2013, Union Pacific reclaimed number 4014 from a museum and rebuilt it. In May 2019, it breathed again. Since then, 4014 has toured the country, drawing crowds by the tens of thousands. In 2025, it ran a limited schedule, with a bigger slate planned for America's 250th in 2026. It's the largest operating steam locomotive on Earth, and it proves that history doesn't have to sit still in a glass box. It can move. It can shake the ground. It can make kids point and grown-ups grin. Let's come up for air. What ties these machines together? Not just size or speed. It's purpose. Hungary's 242 fought for minutes on the timetable. South Africa's Class 25 fought for water. The rotary fought winter. The Challenger fought grades. The Allegheny fought tonnage. The DDA40X fought time across the plains. And the big boy fought mountains. Every one of them shows you a problem the world threw at the railroad, and the wild, brilliant, sometimes crazy solution engineers built in reply. And we're still not done, because the next part of our journey weaves these giants into stories you can feel under your skin. Desert nights, mountain storms, crowded platforms, and a whistle that makes you stop mid-sentence. Sources for Part 2, rotary snowplow function and use, UP 3985 service and restoration status, C&O H8 survivors, DDA40X design, power and survivor, Big Boy 4014 restoration, and 2025-2026 notes. Close your eyes and step into a desert siding with me. It's late afternoon. The wind tastes like dust and iron. Your shirt sticks to your back. Far off, a shimmer forms above the rails. The Class 25 condenser appears, long tender glittering with radiator panels. The air behind it looks like heat haze from a jet. You can't help staring at the tender because it looks so different, like a rolling factory. Then you remember why. That tender is the secret. It catches steam, turns it back into water, and gives the engine the one thing desserts try to take first: range. The crew leans out, scanning the line for sand drifts. The exhaust is quieter than you expect, because so much steam is being recycled. In a place where everything is dry, this machine drinks twice, and that's why it mattered. It turned empty space into a working railroad. It made the map bigger. Jump north to a winter pass where the tracks vanish into white. The wind stings your eyes. Suddenly the quiet ends as a rotary snowplow slams into a drift. The wheel at the nose spins like a hungry planet, biting into compacted ice, throwing snow 30 feet or more. There's no road crew that can match this. No truck can keep a line like this open for weeks. But the rotary can. It's not pretty. It doesn't need to be. It's a battering ram for weather, and seeing it work feels like cheating nature for a few precious hours while trains get through. That's a different kind of power. Not pulling, clearing, not speed, access. Now stand on a station platform in the 1950s as Norfolk and Western 611 swings in. You feel the heat from the boiler before you hear the brakes. The casing shines. Kids stare up at the bullet nose. You smell cinders. Conductors step out in crisp uniforms, because this is a flagship train and everyone knows it. People remember the food, the seats, the view, but what they tell their grandkids about is the way the whistle's chord echoed under the station roof. That sound said, "We are on time, we are going somewhere." Decades later, when 611 runs, crowds still show up with cameras and lawn chairs because they want that sound again, even for a second. Steam does that, it's industrial theater. And 611 is one of its best actors, freight time. The Santa Fe 5000 rattles a siding as it idles, oil fire murmuring, rods clacking while the engineer nudges the throttle. 10 driving wheels bite the rail when the signal clears. On a long grade, that even spread of weight means traction, and traction means the train keeps moving when a lighter engine would slip and stall. The 5000 never tried to be graceful. It tried to be useful. That honesty is part of why people love it. It's the same feeling you get from a heavy wrench or a well-worn hammer, tools that just work. In Amarillo, folks still visit Madam Queen, the way you'd visit an old teacher who changed your life. You look up, remember what she did, and walk away impressed all over again. Back to the USSR for one more moment with the AA20. Think of the courage, and maybe stubbornness, it took to push a 414-4 into service. The design team knew curves would be a problem, so they built in lateral motion, removed flanges from some middle wheels, and tried an unusual way to spread power across the axles. Hand still, the engine fought the track. It's almost poetic. The AA20 wanted to be too much. There's a lesson in that for every engineer and every manager. Sometimes the limit isn't your imagination, it's the world you have to run on. The AA20 is gone, but its ghost is helpful. It warns us not to let dreams outrun the rails. Okay, you've been patient. Time to meet the two American titans that still spark arguments in railfan circles. Which was the true king of power, the C&O Allegheny or the UP Big Boy? The Allegheny was a pressure cooker with wheels, built to hurl coal tonnage over the mountains into wartime factories. The Big Boy was a fast freighter, designed to keep schedules over long grades without help. The Allegheny had that massive trailing truck to carry a huge firebox and squeeze every BTU into horsepower. The Big Boy spread its weight with 8 drivers per engine set, hitting a sweet spot between tractive effort and speed. When folks argue, they throw numbers around. But when you stand beside them, the answer feels obvious. Both are kings, but of different kingdoms. The Allegheny is raw, concentrated force, factory thunder. The Big Boy is strategic reach. Do more with one locomotive, for longer, with fewer delays. Which one would I ride? I'd say yes. And then, almost as a counterpunch to all that steam, the DDA40X shows up to say, I can do crazy, too. You look along its 98-foot body and think that can't be one locomotive. But it is 2 engines, 1 frame, 8 powered axles. Long freights, high speeds. The idea didn't last. Railroads shifted to multiple smaller locomotives, spread through the train with radio-controlled helpers. But for a moment, the Centennial showed you a diesel that thought like a battleship. It even introduced tech that later EMD models used, proving that experiments aren't failures when they teach you what to build next. Now the emotional peak. Big Boy 4014 today. Picture a child on a crossing in 2025, phone in hand, father grinning behind him. The crossing gates drop. People gather. Someone says, here it comes. At first it's only a tremor. Then 4014 rolls into view. Black paint, brass numbers, a living thing. The whistle climbs and the ground answers. It's hard to explain this to someone who's never felt it. It's not nostalgia exactly. It's contact. Between your small human life and a machine that carried a country on its shoulders. That feeling is why crowds still pack overpasses and empty fields to see a locomotive older than their grandparents. In 2026, it will run again to celebrate America's 250th. If you can, go. Let it shake your ribs. Own that memory forever. Here's your teaser. We have one more chapter to write together. In it, you'll pick your favorite. You'll also hear a twist that might change how you judge most powerful. Because raw numbers are only half the story. The other half is what those numbers let people do. Cross deserts, beat blizzards, keep promises to towns waiting down the line. Stick with me. The ending might surprise you.